I almost feel like, honestly, I prefer to have an HOA than not, because without it, people will literally do whatever they want, and your neighborhood can look however it wants. And when we talk about resale value, which as a realtor, that is most important. I held on to my home for only 5 years as a new construction home and made 110K on the sale of it in
Hmm.
just 5 years. And that's largely because there's an HOA who kept people from parking their cars in their front lawn, or would fine people for having their trash can sitting in the street in front of their house for too many days after trash pickup, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I can see both sides of it. So for those of, I guess, listeners out there who just tuning in, we are talking about HOAs. Clearly.
We started talking about it before y'all got here.
Yeah, before y'all got, but y'all here now. But no, it's talking about these HOAs, and I mean, this all stemmed from the article that you sent me, where, and I'm pulling it up now. We've got people who've been losing their homes over HOAs, and I'll preface this by saying that in Georgia, where we are located, HOAs don't really have much oversight or any oversight. You know, if you live in an HOA and you have complaints against your HOA, there's no governing body in the state of Georgia where you can submit those complaints to. So HOAs have a lot of free reign to just kind of operate
Run amok.
and do things. And so I'll preface it by saying that in terms of how this article is framed, there are issues across with HOAs that different people have across the country. But I do want to start off by saying there are benefits that are provided by HOAs as well. It's not all negative, because we are going to get into a lot of negative stemming from
Listen
this
at you,
article.
playing devil's advocate. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I try and see the other side of the fence, but the grass ain't greener. You sure like I like the grass on my side, but
And honestly, I don't have any other context for the home that I own. Now, my parents, I was raised in a home that was not a part of an HOA, but a home that I own personally, I've only owned one, and that wasn't an HOA. So,
and I think part of my thing is like I've never lived in an HOA. I've lived in an apartment, but I don't own the apartment. So you pay rent and you have all access to all the amenities. But I've never lived in an HOA. So a lot of my admittedly jaded view of HOAs comes from all of the stories that I hear from other people who live in HOAs. And more often than not, I don't hear positive things about HOAs. I mean, and there could be people that have positive experiences. You just don't hear positive things about HOAs. More often, you hear negative things about HOAs. And so I think that's what's jaded my viewpoint, because again, I've never lived in an HOA, so I can't speak from personal experience in terms of how HOAs are. And even if I had lived in an HOA, I can only speak from experience in that one HOA, but there's like thousands of HOAs out there, across the state. So
and
it's
they're
like,
all different.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
all different. You could have ran into a bad one, but or maybe you just ran into some bad leadership and they just need to replace the leadership, and then it becomes a good HOA. So, I fully recognize my viewpoints are, you know, warped under the negative stuff that I've heard, which might not be true of what a lot of people have experienced in their HOAs.
One thing I think that really the issue with the HOA is not necessarily the fact that they regulate the community and how it looks and all of these things,
Hmm.
so much as it is here is just one more entity that can potentially foreclose on your home due to non-payment for whatever it is that they're saying you owe. Bad enough that the mortgage company can do it. Bad enough that Uncle Sam can do it, or the both on the state and the county/city level, depending on where you live.
Hmm.
But now I have an HOA who can also foreclose on and take my home if I don't comply or pay their dues. And so it's like everywhere I look, being a homeowner, somebody got their hand out. And if I decide to not pay any one of y'all,
Hmm.
I'm going to be without my home. And so that part I do understand, because that's more like what the article is about. Like, I feel like people are wanting HOAs to have more oversight because of the fact that they're able to foreclose on your home for as little as, what is it, two
two
thousand.
thousand dollars, $2,000 fine, and they can take your $400,000 home over a $2,000 fine. That is crazy to me. That is crazy, and this is in the state of Georgia. Again, this is not nationwide. You know, different states got their own laws, but in Georgia, an HOA can take your home for you owing as little as $2,000 in fines to the HOA. But I wanted to read a little bit about this article because I actually, it was really interesting. I actually talked to my wife a little bit about this as well, with this article. But basically, it was, let's see, you had the Senator Donzella James, who is in Atlanta, said,
What a name.
yeah, I know.
Donzella. Hold on.
Yeah.
A man or a woman? I think that's a woman.
I'm not sure. Parents like dinosaurs, though. They're like Donzella. That's a name. That's just.
What?
It doesn't. To me, it sounds like the name of like a type of dinosaur or something like.
And her herbivorous. Oh God.
Yeah.
Two little kids and I'm like laughing at this lady next. We need to get on with the article. Okay. Donzella, what
See,
she
and this gonna be the one episode that person gonna tune into, and they gonna shut the rest of the podcast down. Like, I heard what you were saying about my name.
Oh God.
Like, I was sorry, it was a different Donzella I was talking about. I get my Donzellas confused.
I'm the only one in the world with that name. I can't. Ma'am, you sure are. You sure are.
Yeah. Like, you ain't get me confused with no one.
At all.
No, but
Oh, we ain't even got past the first part of the article. Hold on. Okay, y'all. Reset.
But no, she was let's see, she was talking to a committee basically saying that they've received more than 200 HOA concerns, or received more than 200 concerns from excuse me, let me back that up. So she said that the committee that she's a part of has received concerns from more than 200 HOA communities in recent months, which, first of all, that's a lot of HOA communities that they've received, concerns from. Several homeowners told the committee about thousands of dollars in fines and liens placed on their properties. And one condo owner said boards continue to be problematic, and they're using legal support, in order to enforce their efforts of what they're trying to do. There were other people that filed complaints that said that the boards are continuing to go rogue, using their attorneys to do whatever they want to do. Some of them said that they're going after elderly people. And so, this whole thing about an HOA being able to foreclose on your home, which is something that's actually happened. If you owe fines to the HOA and you don't pay those fines, they can foreclose on your home. And there was an investigation that surveyed about 100 homeowners with HOA issues. And among the respondents, 63% owed fines and fees that averaged $11,000. And that's excluding, outliers. So 63% of them, $11,000 was the average of, the fees and fines that were owed. And I'm like, this is crazy. So single fines were ranging anywhere from $25 to $700 for a single fine. You get speeding tickets for less than $700. You pass through one of those traffic cameras, going through too fast in a school zone or something like that, because they got those all around Georgia now. You don't get a $700 fine for it, though. But HOAs are fining you $700 for what? Parking a car in your yard, putting up a fence, not cutting your grass low enough. Like, what is it that's worth a $500, $600, $700 fine for an HOA that you were possibly doing? You painted your house the wrong color. I have no idea, but I just
Or
thought,
didn't get it cleared with the HOA first?
yeah. I think what it comes down to a lot of times is just the people that run the HOA. Um, you know, it, because ultimately these HOAs have what governing bodies, right? There's like a committee of people that govern the HOA, generally residents that live in the community, I would assume. At least that's what I've heard is usually is residents that live in the community that govern the HOAs. So
Mm-hmm.
you got more experience
Well,
with the HOA.
for me, I think the one of the main issues at play here with HOAs is that, or HOA dues, is that a lot of people can live in their home 5 years, 7 years, get away without paying the HOA dues.
Mm-hmm.
And they, first of all, it is disclosed to every home buyer in Georgia anyway. If they're buying any property in an HOA, it's disclosed that there's an HOA. It doesn't catch anyone by surprise. So the outright refusal by a lot of people because they just don't feel like it's right or they don't feel like it's fair to pay these dues is to me very concerning. It's very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same token, what people don't realize is that just because you refuse to pay or just because you sell your home does not absolve you from that duty. It will be paid. It has to be paid. It has to be taken care of upon closing of that home, upon the sale of that home.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can get away with maybe not paying $11,000 and never getting foreclosed on, but you best believe that that's going to come out of the seller proceeds. And if all you get back is $12,000 and the HOA is owed 11,000, well then enjoy your $1,000 because that's all you're going to walk away with. And they legally can do that, and that's what's crazy to me. Um, but Georgia law, I'm excited to actually see them kind of change that, at least change the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Because $2,000, like you said, if the average fine is anywhere from, what did you say, 25 to, or 75
$25 to $700.
to 700,
Mm-hmm.
baby, that can add up quick. All you really need
Oh
is
yeah.
three good $700 fines, and
Oh
you
yeah.
have to be foreclosed on.
You can get foreclosed
And
on now. Yeah.
so, anything is, oh, your grass is too long, or, oh, you can't have a garden in your backyard that's fenced that we can't see
Yeah.
anyway. If you don't get out of my business,
And that's the part that gets me is like, since there's no governing body that oversees HOA's, authority, who's to say that the size of the fines that some of these people are getting are fair? Like, oh, you didn't cut your grass, we're fining you $500.
I could about
You,
6 riding lawnmowers
I know, it's like
3 times.
I could have paid three people. I could have paid for my grass to be cut 3 times for 500. So at some point, it's like there needs to be something governing this because the fines need to be in alignment with some sort of, okay, this is over the top. Maybe a $50 fine.
Maximum
Yeah,
limit, upper limit. I agree. I agree. I agree.
like okay, maybe a $50 fine. I mean, something not $5 where it's like, okay, well, take your $5 and get off my lawn. But something where it's not like
It'll hurt, but it'll not put the owner in jeopardy of losing their entire property that they worked hard for
exactly,
and are
yeah.
trying their hardest to maintain. But like everything else is regulated with when as far as it comes to homes, especially in rentals, as far as in Georgia, like with landlord tenant laws, a landlord can't charge you more than double deposit. No matter how bad your credit is, they cannot exceed. They can't charge somebody a triple deposit,
Hmm.
which is 3 times month's rent to move into a place. Like that's actually illegal according to Georgia law.
Hmm.
It cannot exceed 2 months rent as deposit. So, even something like that, like it can't exceed a certain percentage of the value of the property or of the tax assessment, or the
Yeah.
tax bill or something. And so, I hope that Georgia, I don't know if it's just me or, if I really feel this way. Because, see, I've lived in other states, but Georgia seems to be a little behind in certain areas than, compared to other states.
Oh,
In certain
in certain areas, I definitely would agree. I mean, I've lived in a couple other states too.
Mhm.
Courtesy of your U.S. military.
That's right. That's right.
But
Yes.
yeah, no, it's
Thank you for your service. Yesterday, was it yesterday?
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't. I didn't mean to.
Veterans
Happy
Day,
Veterans
yeah,
Day. Thank you for your
yeah,
service.
no, for sure. Thank you for your support.
Yeah.
It was. I would say Georgia's definitely a little bit behind than some of the other states that I've lived in as well. It seems more. It seems like a southern city that spent a lot of time stuck in the South, old fashioned type deal, and it's you got people that are trying to move it forward a little bit into the more modern present. Because a lot of the stuff with Georgia was just like, just an old fashioned way of doing things. Like, Georgia's still
Mhm.
a buyer beware state. There aren't a lot of laws out there that protect home buyers. So it's like, hey, you're kind of doing this at your own risk. It's like, okay, well, maybe we make some laws to, make buyers a little bit more protected when they're going out there and about to spend literally their life savings on the biggest purchase of their life. Maybe we have some laws that,
Mhm.
protect home buyers a little bit. Maybe that's, some good things that we can put out there. But yeah, I feel like Georgia is just slow with getting on to some of these things. So I'm hopeful for some of the changes as well, because I can't get behind, HOAs that can just take people's houses for like a few $1,000s. I mean, that's crazy. And then there have been people that, I mean, it gets into, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but then just touching on a few of the things that I've heard with people that have, been fined for the HOA for having a party at their house. And it's like, it's my house. I can invite people over and have a birthday party if I want to. I don't need to clear it with the HOA to have a birthday party for my kid or to have a Halloween party or whatever else. But there have been HOAs that have fined people for having parties, or having a party at their house or whatever, and they didn't clear it with the HOA first. There have been people that have, and then you've got your HOAs that do absolutely nothing. No one gets fined. You can park a semi in your yard if you want to, and the HOA is turning a blind eye, and it's like, don't really care. We're not going
Mhm.
to bother you. So you've got, you got some HOAs that are really well run, and then you have some HOAs that are not really well run. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, my
I
big
wish the
issue.
HOA would give me a fun tax. I paid enough for these party supplies, this food, and the extra toilet paper that all these guests are using. I'm not gonna pay you no extra because I had a party.
I,
Oh,
the only issue I have is like nothing governs the HOA, and that's the biggest problem that I have. Is like they can fine you, and what are you going to do about it? You can take it to court. Court fees are not cheap. You're going to be paying money there too. And a lot of these people, it's like, if you can't afford the fine, you can't afford the court fees to fight the fine. And then if you lose in court, now you owe the court fees and you still got to pay the fine. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't like that there's no oversight on HOA where there should be a governing body. Like if you're acting essentially as a government over your community, you make laws, you enforce those laws, you can fine people for disobeying those laws. So you're essentially acting like a government. You should also have some sort of oversight in terms of how far your reach stretches, because a regular citizen can have a grudge with another, neighbor, and all of a sudden you're targeting a particular neighbor because you don't like that neighbor. And so you're keeping a really close eye on everything they do. Like, maybe their, you know, grass is a little bit too high. Maybe they're painting their color. You're building a deck back there on your house. We didn't approve that deck, planting a garden, um, which was actually something that one of my neighbors had a friend who lived in an HOA, and his whole issue was that he had to get approval from the HOA to plant the garden in his backyard. And it's like, wow, you want to plant a garden in a fenced backyard? He had to get approval from an HOA. And by the time the HOA finally came back to him with approval after this barrage of questioning. How big is the garden? What are you going to be growing back there? And everything. After they finally got through with all their questioning and got back to him, he had missed the whole growing season, and it was winter time now. So it was like, this is crazy. There's no oversight for the HOA. That's the biggest thing. It's like, I think homeowners who are, are under this governance of the HOA need to have a system in place where they can file complaints, where they can actually be heard, and then the HOA board can be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's how it works in the regular government, lawmakers,
Well,
somewhat, a little bit, maybe.
it did before this current administration.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it should work.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
how it
okay.
should work. I left out a word. Yeah, I found it. It was hiding around the corner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's how it should work. So yeah, I think that they need to be held accountable. But
Well, until they are, I suppose everybody just needs to buy a house on the side of the highway. You don't have to worry about none of this. Though you might
Yeah.
not want to have no pets or nothing, but because I don't know if they run out into the street. That's about it for Fido. However, until then,
yeah, I mean, I will say one thing though, and this is actually kind of to the side with the HOA, because I understand the whole institution of the HOA beyond just what we started with, which was maintaining. If you're in a condo, maintaining the elevators, maintaining the common areas, even if you live in a single family neighborhood with a HOA, maintaining that pool and making sure that it stays clean, maintaining, if you got a gym or, whatever common facilities you have. But beyond that, property values can be affected by the nuisance homeowners that really don't take care of their stuff.
yeah.
And if you are a homeowner, let's just say, you're like, oh, I don't want the HOA, and we get rid of the HOA, and you have, Pookie and Ray Ray that moves on next door to you, and it's loud, and they, doing all types of, whatever they doing over there, not cutting the grass, not maintaining the home, it's just a nuisance to be by them. You get ready to want to sell your home, and all of a sudden you find it's a hard time trying to sell it because everyone that comes to show your home, it's like, I saw your neighbors and I don't want to live next to that for the next 5 years. I don't want to live to it next 5 months, so home values can be drastically affected by an HOA. And now you find yourself, oh, now I got to cut $50,000 off the price tag of this home just to get it sold, to make it appealing to people because of my neighbors who don't want to take care of their property and keep the noise level down. That's $50,000 out of your pocket.
Yes.
And so how bad are you really going to feel now if you're like, oh, we got rid of the HOA, but now my neighbors can do whatever they want, and I'm going to have to pay the cost of that in terms of my property value. So it's a double-edged sword when you talk about wanting to get rid of the HOA as well. So I understand that side of it as well, because not everybody is decent and caring about other people that live next door to them. So
Pookie and Ray Ray's home auto repair. I actually saw a article about that. It was somewhere in Atlanta. They were actually running an auto repair shop out of the home, and they had junk cars. As with any auto repair shop, most of the non-name brand shops, you're always going to see a whole bunch of cars parked in the parking lot. It was no different with these guys. And they swore up and down like they would not admit that they were running an auto repair shop out of their home. And it's so obvious. And the neighbors were upset because their house was right on a curve of the corner where you couldn't see around. And there were quite a few elderly people on the street. And they're like, by the time we see the cars coming from around the curb, because there's so many cars parked up and down the street where their house is, it's actually created a safety hazard in the neighborhood, in addition to being a nuisance. And so, yeah, things like that make me not mind being in an HOA. The thing that I think most people hate about HOAs Like the most unfair thing is that yes, they can foreclose on your home, but I think the thing that most people don't like about HOAs is that it makes a neighborhood exclusive, and anything that's not inclusive, especially in this day and time,
Hmm.
people want everything to be inclusive. And when it's not, but that's the idea. Like we want to keep certain people with a certain way that they believe in keeping their property or a certain mindset or whatever on the outskirts, and we only want, and so it makes it seem like it's this exclusive club, and it seems like you're excluding people who maybe can't afford it.
Hmm.
Because when it comes to affordability, you have some HOAs that cost, $500-$700 a month, especially these condos,
Yeah.
and you may have some that cost $25 or $50 a month. And so when it comes to people paying that extra, and honestly, as an MLO, Frederick, any home we have to consider taxes and all of those things before you approve, finally underwrite a loan.
Hmm.
But those HOA dues can make the difference sometimes, or make or break that deal as to whether or not that person can afford it. I
Hmm.
think that's the real issue that people have with it, is the affordability of it all. In addition to the fact that you could be paying those fines, those dues, and they'll still fine you for something else.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, if I'm rich and I'm living in $1 million neighborhood, I want an HOA. And I don't want people just running up in my neighborhood
yeah,
causing all types of ruckus and, mayhem. And no, that's not what I'm paying for this $1 million house for that I stay in. Like, no, I want an HOA. I want fenced, a gated community,
or arm guard.
armed guard. And I'm going to talk to him. Hey, make sure you don't let no hoodlums up in here. Like, we good folks up in here. It's
I
like,
ain't talking about just no regular gun, not no 22. He need to have a Draco, okay? One of them illegal guns.
someone come up. Is that a sawed off? Is that
An assault rifle. I'm telling you, he need to.
is that an extended clip you have in
You
there?
know how much I pay to live up in here? Yes, it is.
It's like on your way out to work. I saw Miss Susie's grass was a little over 5 inches. You might want to go and have a talk with her. Can't be having that next door.
Gosh, it would be annoying. But like I said, if I had to have my choice based on what I've seen, especially most newer homes nowadays, you want a new construction home, just about 100% of them are in HOA communities. It's so annoying. It's so annoying.
You cannot get a newly built home that's not in the HOA now.
Not in Georgia.
Not in Georgia, at least. Yeah, it just don't exist unless you are buying land somewhere and then having your home built on that land.
Yes.
Then yeah, neighborhoods that are being built, the builder's buying up all the acres. He's putting up, a whole bunch of homes. I was actually having a conversation about this earlier this week. It was either earlier this week or late last week about this same thing about how homes are built now. No, matter of fact, it was on Sunday. I was talking with a couple gentlemen at church and talking about like in the neighborhood that I live in, rather, it's an established neighborhood, which really, like I said, you got to be in an established neighborhood, buying a resale in order to avoid an HOA. But I was like, the neighborhood grew organically. Like it was, it started out with like a house, and then, someone built another house in there, and then someone bought a lot and built another house, and it took years. And, the neighborhood was built. And so you got some homes that are newer than others, but everyone's home looks different. Everyone's got, different character to their homes. Some people have like, a big front porch. Some people have no front porch. All the homes are similar in terms of, the price range of the homes. Most of them are, similar. You have some that are a little bit nicer than others, but it's a nice character to the home. All the homes look different, and they're all on, nice size lots and everything. But we were talking about that at church, and we were like, now the way they build subdivisions, you really don't have subdivisions that grow or are built organically like that, where, someone just buys a lot and then a builder builds a home and sells that home. You have builders that are like, I'm going to buy up this 40 acres. I'm going to put 150 homes on it or 120 homes on it. Yeah, so it's like a quarter acre per home, or whatever. Put 4 homes on an acre, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're gonna sell them all. We're gonna cut down all the trees, put all the homes really close together. Everyone's home's gonna look like everyone else's home, so no one's
Mm-hmm.
home looks different, and it's gonna be a HOA to govern the whole thing. And that's kind of the default now. Even if there's no amenities in the neighborhood, there's still going to be an HOA.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so, yeah, it's kind of just
Mm.
where things are now, I guess.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
But buying a plot of land and having a home custom built is starting to sound way more attractive. Not that you could do it for any cheaper though, and sometimes it's a little more expensive because the reason why developers are able to halfway offer, even if the homes aren't cheaper, they're able to offer incentives like 3.99% interest rates, whereas you can't find an interest rate below 6% anywhere else, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, three, four, $5,000 towards closings for using their preferred lender, or or if you are one of the earlier buyers, you do have a lower price point than those who come along a year later and buy the houses that were developed in that year. Then the price goes up usually every time they sell a home.
Mm-hmm.
But if when you find a builder who will build one house, it's sometimes it's a little bit more because you get bulk discounts. These builders are getting bulk discounts even at the supply houses to actually get the building materials. And so if this is just a one-off, and you may not get those same, discounts or benefits, but your benefit of not having an HOA or having a home custom built to your needs, that you had a hand in every aspect of it, that can be more appealing for some people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, that's what we have. HOA discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll let you make the call in terms of whether you want to be in an HOA or whether you have a choice to be in an HOA, because the way things are looking, all homes are getting built in HOAs now, at least in Georgia. So
Yes.
we'll see. But what you can do is make sure you tune into the next episode of Greatest Asset Community Podcast every Friday, dropping a new episode. Home Finance Hacks on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, going live. Till next time, take care. Be blessed. See you next week.